Hello YouTube, Mr. Mags here. Today I'll be asking the question, what if the Kalos region had brand new gym leaders? Now I said in my last video that I've always felt like the Unova gym leaders were always just a little underwhelming to me. And honestly, that goes double for the Kalos gym leaders. The fact that they only cap at three Pokemon when I feel, gym leaders should go up to at least four, if not five, preferably. The fact that they don't use hardly any Gen 6 Pokemon. There's just not a lot of Gen 6 Pokemon represented on their teams. I've always found that annoying as well. And probably most egregiously, none of them actually use any mega evolutions in the region that they were introduced in. I think, and many other people have said this, it makes perfect sense that as soon as the player character has access to mega evolutions, every major trainer after that should probably also have mega evolutions. And because of that, these gym leaders in the Kalos region just have always been very disappointing to me. So I thought it'd be cool to come today and create my own league for the region. Here's the criteria for how I develop these teams. There will be no repeat types of any current Kalos gym leaders, so no electric, grass, rock, etc., but any that are Elite Four member types or any that are types of like the special trainers in Legend ZA, those are fair game. These teams are created independent of any canon teams or previous teams in this series. So, for example, if I were to create a normal gym leader, it I am allowed to use Heliolisk, even though that was the ace of the electric gym in the base games. I'm pretending like those gym leaders either don't exist or, are it won't really matter here. Like I'm not going to say that I can't use a certain Pokemon just because it exists on a team that I'm basically replacing anyway. There might be certain Pokemon here or there that like subconsciously I'm not using because one reason or another, but nothing is completely banned. As far as rematch teams, all Pokemon from Gen 1 through 5, sorry, 1 through 6 are allowed for rematches, but Pokemon species found in Kalos are prioritized. And that is including the Friend Safari area. There's a couple of Pokemon up to this point that can only be obtained in Kalos by trading it with a Mega Ruby after Sapphire or transporting it up from Black and White 2. Um, those I tried not to use, but I am allowing Pokemon that are only found through the Friend Safari in Kalos. But I'll prioritize Pokemon, at least generally Pokemon that are found just standardly in the region. All possible regional forms and regional evolutions are only allowed for rematches. In previous videos, I did allow some regional variants to kind of fill holes where necessary. Example being in my Kanto video, I did allow the Ghost Gym Leader to have a Alolan Marowak, since there weren't many other Ghost types to use. But in this instance, we're so far into the franchise that you don't really need those to like fill holes like that. So, for example, if I had a dragon or a steel gym leader, they're not going to be able to use Hisuian, Sliggoo, or Gudra on their base team, but they could use it in a rematch team. It is assumed that the story will follow a similar but slightly modified path to X and Y. The main differences here are where you get mega evolutions, like where you get the mega stones. And I'm pretty sure in the base game you get like a very small number of mega stones along your journey, and then the vast majority of them are only post-game content. Not really a fan of that. I feel you should get a lot of them at kind of as you go. Um, the obviously the gym leaders will be completely different. And then also, I'm kind of headcanon this as your rival characters, all three or four, how many? I think four of them. All four of them, you fight all of them more often. Because I'm pretty sure how it is now, you fight the other three almost as many times as you fight your main rival. I'm pretty sure before the Elite Four, you fight your main rival five times, and I'm pretty sure you fight the other three a total of six times collectively. I could be wrong about that, but it is weird that it's close. So I think there should be more challenges against the other three at least. And lastly, the gym leader's overall strength will be based on the canon gym leaders in Kalos, if not slightly stronger. So essentially, I tried to keep the ace Pokemon of any given gym leader similarly strengthed to at least like the base form of it, since I am mega evolving most of these Pokemon. The uh base stat total of that Pokemon is going to be similar to the one that is in that position. But I am going to be adding extra Pokemon here and there, upping the levels a little bit, especially since these gym leaders are actually the strongest gym leaders that have ever been. That's part of the reason why I've always been a little upset at them only capping at three Pokemon. Wolfric is level wise the single strongest gym leader we've ever had in the franchise, but you don't really feel it since he doesn't have a Mega Evolution and then also only has three Pokemon. So you can get through him pretty easily despite technically being really strong. So I think it only makes sense to, if they are going to be that high and even a little higher in my case, they should have more Pokemon and just be an overall a little more of a threat. All right, let's jump right into the gym leaders here. First, we have a fire gym leader, and I thought it'd be really cool to have this fire gym leader actually be Serena. I'm kind of headcanon this as a situation similar to Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, where the rival in that game, his name is Trace, but he's functionally identical to Blue or Gary, whatever, however you refer to him. Like you fight him in pretty much all the same places. He has a very similar team, but Blue is just a different character in the region. So I think it only makes sense for Serena to exist in this game. And I've always kind of thought that it makes sense for her to have the fire starter anyway. So yeah, she I think it's cool that her team is level 14 Panseer and a level 16 Braixen. I knew I wanted a Pokemon that was a similar base side total to the Vivian that is usually here, and all of the second form starter Pokemon have a similar base stat total, so I thought, why not? Um, at one point I had Panseer and Fletchinder, but I thought in order to really make it make sense, Fletchinder would have to be at level 17. I tried not to keep, especially in the later gyms, I tried not to really care too much about evolution levels, especially in Gen 5 and 6 when the evolution levels do get pretty high. But so early on, I think it's kind of important to for these gym leaders to have Pokemon that you know that do generally match their evolution level. And since Braixen evolved at 16, I think 16 is a pretty good starting point for a gym leader in the region. And since Serena, the character, pretty should use a starter anyway, I think it's cool. Next, we have a ghost gym and this hex maniac named Nadia. Now, this is kind of a reference to the You're Not the One Hex Maniac from X and Y. In Lumio City, there's a building in there where you go in and then randomly this Hex Maniac ghost girl just appears behind you, and all she says is, "No, you're not the one," and then disappears. No one knows what it's about. There's been a lot of like conspiracy theories and fan theories and stuff about creepypastas and everything about what that was, because she actually showed up again similarly in Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. She didn't show up in um, Legend ZA, which I was a little disappointed in, but regardless, she was there in the base X and Y. And I don't know, I think Nadia, you're not the one, not a one, Nadia. I think it works if it's, the Hex Maniacs and Channelers and that kind of, trainer class have all usually have names that are kind of similar to this anyway. So if you want to headcanon this as being that person, that's cool too. But regardless, I thought that Ghost just worked very well as a second gym with a Pumpkaboo at level 23, a Shuppet at 22, kind of referencing that that'll be her Mega Evolved Pokemon in the rematch, and then Trevenant at 25. Trevenant, I think, has a very similar vibe to something like Stormy in the Gen 1 games, where like on paper it maybe even seems a little too strong for this point in the game, but it does have a good amount of weaknesses. Grass Ghost isn't really the best typing. It's weak to, fire, ghost, dark, ice. Like it's weak to a lot of, like some of flying. That's a big one. Weak to some fairly common types in the, especially early on. And then Trevenant, it is a little slower than Starmie, but it does hit really hard. It can mess you up with stuff like Will-O-Wisp and Leech Seed, and I could see this being a somewhat decent roadblock. And I think, um, yeah, I think this is an overall better second gym than we did get, which I like the quirkiness of him having the two fossils, and they're both basically his dual aces, but I think Trevenant works just as well, if not better, as the ace here. And next, third gym, we have a flying gym with this a guy named Aaron. And I know that there is a Elite Four member in Sinnoh named Aaron, Aaron, but I'm pretending like that doesn't matter. This guy, Aaron, Airen, like Aaron. I really liked that pun. I wasn't gonna let a guy who had the same name but spelled differently get in my way. So yeah, Aaron. So he has a Vivian at level 30, a Noibat at level 29, and Halucha at 32. And this is fun that I thought it made sense for a flying gym leader to be the third gym leader, and Halucha, who is usually Karina's ace at the third gym, is also part flying, so why not throw it here as well? It's especially cool knowing that now it can mega evolve, so you could kind of still have him be the one that showcases Mega Evolution to you. I don't think he would Mega Evolve the Hawlucha in this battle, but maybe he would be the one that shows it to you in the Tower of Mastery. Although there is a character that I'm going to show a little bit later that I think makes a little more sense to be that person, but regardless, he can at least kind of prime you with the idea that, oh, I mean, he gives you, after you fight him, he gives you the Mega Stone for Halucha. And I think that's going to be a kind of consistent thing throughout um, the rest of these is that uh, every single gym leader will give you the Mega Stone that is their Pokemon. I just think that's a very natural, cool way to obtain all these, a good amount of the Mega Stones. I don't know exactly if the first two will do it, but definitely from third gen on, that's what they'll do. And yeah, I think from fourth gym onwards, they absolutely should use Mega Evolutions. Um, you know, it's weird that in the games you go most of the game without seeing a single one. You fight one as the villain, villain has one, and then you fight a gym leader who doesn't have one. Then you fight the entire Elite Four who doesn't have one, and then the champion, and then your rival in a post-game fight. So there's like three, maybe four that the entire game that you actually see as far as the opponent is having one. So I think it makes way more sense to start that here. So within fourth gym, we have Drazna, who is now a gym leader here. We have Tyrant at level 32, Gabite at 33, Sliggoo at 34, and then Mega Dragalge at 36. And I wanted her specifically to be at 36 because since I am scaling these gym leaders up quite a bit, I think, the first time you fight a Mega, I think in order to potentially equalize it, if you do think that Mega Dragalge is too strong for this point in the game, you do have access to your fully evolved starter Pokemon. So yeah, even I don't think you will get the Mega Stone for your starter yet, but you know, you at least have that as a backup option on top of any other Mega Pokemon you do have up to that point. And I really like the idea of her having Gabite since it's kind of I don't know if it's confirmed, but it's at least theorized that she is Cynthia's cousin or somehow related to Cynthia. I think um she mentioned that she's from a town in Sinnoh that not can't like Celestial. Yeah, I think she's from Celestial Town, which is Celestic, whatever. The town that Cynthia and her grandma are from in Sinnoh. I think she mentioned that she's from there, so it's kind of implied that she at least knows Cynthia. So I think it's cool that she also has a gutmate. Next, fifth gym, we have a normal gym leader named Butler, the Butler. I I really like that pun. I was like, hey, this Butler character, I think he could work well as a gym leader, and might as well name him Butler. Why not? So we have Furfru at 37, Diggersby at 36, Heliolisk at 38, and Mega Pyroar at level 40. Now, is Mega Pyroar good? No, he's not. It is kind of universally panned as one of the single worst megas in the entire franchise. It's just the fact that they did just, they gave him 20 stat points across all of his stats means that he's not really the best at anything, really. Like 129 at special attack is fine. Like by the fifth gym, I think this is about as far as Mega Pyroar can go while still being kind of useful. And him having Mega Pyroar is why I didn't give Litleo um, to Serena. I knew, since there were several other fire type options I could Mega Evolve, and there's not that many normal types, I wanted to give him Mega Pyroar. So there you go. I still think, like I said, I still think that as an ace of a fifth gem, 120 something attack and speed is actually, serviceable for this point, but I don't think it could really go any further and be super useful after that. Sixth gem, we have a dark gem leader, and I chose Emma for this. And at least in her initial fight, I do like her being in that like special suit she had in the post game of X and Y. Maybe she can be involved a little more in the actual story, um, you know, leading up to this point. But then in the post game fight, she'll just be looking like Emma. But at least in the initial fight, she looks like that, which I think fits the dark aesthetic good anyway. So we have Pangoro at 43, who I really wish were her ace Pokemon. I really like Pangoro, and I think it's just one of those Pokemon that absolutely deserve to have a Mega, but whatever. Crawdont at 41, Mandibuzz at 42, and then Mega Malamar at 45. This is another one that is a little underwhelming. It at least has a more interesting stat distribution than Mega Pyroar, but it didn't really put in anything good. It's at least now very specially defensive. That's cool. It has usable attack and special attack now, but it's not like even close to the power of any other Mega form. It's one of those where I really hope it has some kind of really good ability, because at the time of this video, we don't actually know what any of the new Mega's abilities are. So I hope it has some kind of good ability that'll help it out, but at least as a mega ace, it's not the best Pokemon, but you know, at least in theory has potential to be pretty good. So yeah, I plus the rest of the team I think is also very solid. Sixth gym, we have Wickstrom. This is the other character that I mentioned maybe could be the one to show, to really showcase Mega Evolution. We have Klefki at 47, Escavalier at 46, Aegislash at 48, who would be his ace if he didn't have a Mega Lucario at level 50. Yeah, I still like the idea to an extent. Still like the idea of Mega Lucario kind of being the poster child for Mega Evolution. You can still have the two different battles against Lucario kind of on your way at it, because in the base games you have Karina, you fight her at some point with two Lucario, and then you fight her again, Mega Lucario versus Mega Lucario, and then after that you get Lucario. So I think you could just basically have Wickstrom, be in the place of that. I think that could work just as well. Um, like I said, I still like the idea of the flying guy being the one to show you Mega Evolution, but since it also works that Lucario is a steel type, might as well be him, or also. So maybe he could be involved. I don't know. I just like the idea of either one doing it. And then lastly, I wanted to make sure that I got this last gym leader right because, like I mentioned up top, the fact that Wulfric is the technically the strongest a gym leader has ever been, but he only has three Pokemon and doesn't have a Mega really annoys me, especially since this is one of the games where you have your legendary Pokemon, like the box legendary Pokemon, going into that fight. So yeah, I really wanted to make sure that I made this next gym leader like possibly the best gym leader I either have or will ever make. So I made a water gym leader and had Callum, the other protagonist character, be that character. I feel like it only makes sense to have both Serena and Callum. Originally, I had these being the fire and water Elite Four members, but I was like, just something really cool about having both of the player characters be gym leaders in this like altered version of X and Y. So yeah, Serena is the fire one and Callum is the water one. And I think aesthetically, since she is more has more like a red dress on, and he is more of a blue aesthetic. I think that works very well. So he has a Cloudster at 57, Barbaracle at 57, who I would have made the Mega if it didn't lose its water typing in its Mega form. I do really like Mega Barbaracle, but it losing its water form you know, did kind of take it out of the running here, but whatever. Vaporeon at 56, kind of as a reference to when you fight Caleb or Serena, whichever, one of their potential teams has a evolution on it. So I think it only makes sense for that to be represented with Vaporeon here. Lapras at 58. Again, as a reference to one of the gift Pokemon you can get in a standard playthrough of X and Y. And then Mega Greninja at level 60. I think that's up two levels from where Wolfric usually is. I think he's at 58. So yeah, going up to level 60. Yeah, you have a good amount of Mega Stones at your disposal. You have your legendary Pokemon. Does this team feel a little more similar to an Elite Four member team? Yes, it does. If you think it's too strong, you can take away Vaporeon. I wouldn't be too upset about that. But as it is right now, I really do think that since you have your box legend, you have a good amount of Mega Stones at your disposal. Um, I think it's more than fair for this to be a gym leader fight. All right, so moving on to the rematches, and usually how I do these is I have the first six um, all be on the same level. You sometimes have the seventh one be a little stronger, and then definitely have the eighth one be a lot stronger, just to kind of represent like, the eighth gym leader. Even though these are rematches, he is still definitely stronger than the rest. But this time, since I did have the two player characters be gym leaders, I think it'd be cool if both the first and the last gym leader are still kind of considered equals. So we're starting Serena. Her ace is actually at level 75. So we have Ninetales at 72, who is sent out first to set up the sun. Simisear at 72, Magmortar at 70, Flareon at 71, once again to kind of reference the like potential Flareon that Serena could use on one of her rival teams. Talonflame at 73, and then Mega Delphox at 75. Now, I made this team initially, then I was like, wait a minute. Uh, if we're, already basing Serena off the fact that, Serena and Callum off the fact that they're using Pokemon that are both on rival teams and potential playthrough teams, I think it also makes sense for her to potentially have a Charizard. Um, I mean, in a regular playthrough of X and Y, Serena and Callum can both have access to two different starter Pokemon. So I think I don't really like the idea that there's two different fire flying types here. But in this case, there's three pure fire types. So is no, sorry, four pure fire types. So is that really any better? Not really. Um, but yeah, I really like the idea of in this scenario them having two starter Pokemon. So yeah, I think that's neat. And then we're gonna go down just a couple levels. With Nadia, we have a Gourgeist at 68, Rotom at 67, Shedinja at 66, and I haven't used Shedinja on a ghost team yet, so I thought might as well put it here. Frostlass at 67, Trevenant at 70, and then Mega Bayonet at 72. Yeah, a bit of an issue with the ghost typing is that there's especially like even now there aren't really that many ghost types to pick from. So Frostlass could have been a Dusk Noir, could have been a Drifbloom, could have been a Gengar, but like there's like five or six Pokemon that seem to kind of show on every single ghost team. Unfortunately, that's just kind of how it is. But I was at least able to spice it up a little bit by having a regular Rotom and Shedinja. So yeah, I like this team quite a bit. It is very weak to fire, but what can you do? Now we have Aaron, who I wanted most of his team to be flying types that aren't usually represented on flying teams. So we already had Vivian on his base team, who is a part bug type, but usually associated with bug specialists. Jumpluff, same there. It's usually represented more so on grass specialists. Swellow, that is, you know, very much represented on flying teams, but I don't know. I think it just fits him well here. I couldn't really find another one to kind of fit this vibe, so I went with Swellow. Yanmega, another bug type that, you know, is almost always just associated with bug types. Noivern, who was even on the Dragon Gym, on the Dragon Elite Four member, yeah, in the base game. So I wanted him to be considered a flying type here. And same with Mega Halucha, which I think this is the only one here who technically couldn't participate in a sky battle. I don't necessarily think that this battle should be a sky battle, especially since I don't really love that mechanic anyway. But since the little player icon, the character icon I chose here is one of the Sky Battle trainers, it would have been kind of cool to represent all, the fact that all this Pokemon could Sky Battle. But oh well, you could just either say that Mega Hawlucha could potentially Sky Battle, or Sky Battling isn't even a factor. So regardless, Mega Halucha just, works very well here. I'm so glad that it actually did get a Mega form. I think it's, one of the better ones introduced in the game. And actually there's, a lot of good ones, but Mega Lucha is definitely up there, for me personally. Next we have Drasna. We have Tyrantrum at 68, Kingdra at 67, Altaria at 66, Garchomp at 68. I did for the two that are usually Elite Four members, I did give did instead of doing it where they all have two 67s, I gave them both two that are a 68, just to kind of make them slightly stronger than the rest. We have Garchomp 68, Goodra at 70, and then Mega Dragalge at 72. Yeah, I think this is a very, very, very impressive dragon team here. And next we have Butler with a Furfrou at 68, Diggersby at 67, Sawsbuck at 66, Dodrio at 67 to kind of do a similar thing like I did with Aaron, where I wanted a couple of his Pokemon to be ones that aren't usually associated with normal, with Sawsbuck more so being grass, Heliolisk and Pyroar being their other type as well, and Dodrio isn't even really thought of that much in general, but it definitely isn't really thought of as a normal type, and it is. So let's throw it here. And then Heliolisk at 70. And even though, like I said up top, I don't think it's the best Mega Pyroar still does work very well here. Next, Emma in her, more traditional look here with Mandibuzz at 68, Crawdont 67, Skuntank 66, Houndoom 67, Pangoro at 70, and then Mega Malamar at 72, which actually works very well because in Legends ZA, she actually does use Mega Malamar on her team. So that's a perfect fit there. Next, Wickstrom with a Klefki at 68, Escavalier 67, Bronzong 66, Hisuian Gudra at 68. Like I said at top, I wasn't going to use Hisuian Sligo or Gudra on his base team, but he definitely can have one in the rematch. Aegislash at 70. And then I think it'd be cool if now he has a Mega Lucario Z that was introduced in the DLC of Pokemon Legends ZA at 72. Like in his initial fight, he uses regular Mega Lucario, and he even gives you that Mega Stone. But then in the rematch, you know, he now has like a Lucario Z. I think that's really cool. And lastly, Kalum with Cloutzer 72, Barbarical 72, Slowking at 70, Vaporeon 71, Lapras 73, and then Mega Greninja at 75. I put Slowking there just to kind of add some more type variety. I think it fits. I feel like it fits in well, and it's just an extra type thrown in there is I think cool. But like I said with Serena, it also makes a lot of sense for him to also have Blastoise. Yeah, like half of his team here, Blastoise, Greninja, Lapras, that is a very viable playthrough team of X and Y anyway. You can pick the same starter, the starter the same type as your base starter, and then also having Lapras. You could have three, even more, as far as like cannon water types on your team. So I think that's really cool. And then with the other two main water types in the region, and then the Vaporeon, who is on a potential rival team. I just think this feels like a very fitting team for Calum as a character. All right, thank you so much for watching. Please let me know down below what you thought about any of these teams. Are there any Pokemon I forgot about? Are there any Mega Evolutions I forgot about? I try to represent as many of the new, uh, the new Kalos Mega forms as possible. It's a little unfortunate that there wasn't a new Ghost Mega as far as I could tell. There were a couple of new you know new Mega forms that are Ghost, like Golurk and Chandelure, but I don't know, just something about Mega Bayonet being on her team just felt a little better to me. But there wasn't a ghost Pokemon introduced in Kalos that got a Mega form. I think Trevenant could have had a cool one, but whatever. Yeah, are there any types that you think would have made better gym leaders here? Would you rearrange the order or mess with the leveling? Yeah, please let me know all of that down below. I love having discussions about all of this. And with that, I will see you all next time.